Okay, so thank you for clicking on this video. I'm Johnny Hazel, and today we're going to review the Cube Method Kingpin. I have already reviewed the Brandon Lilly Cube Method, which you can find in the description below if you want to check that out. But today we're going to focus on this variation, and I really like it. Someone recommended it in one of the comments on my video, so I went to go check it out, and I created this spreadsheet. So let's talk about it straight away. Weekly routine: you deadlift, you bench, you squat once a week. Okay, and you can do that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can do that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then but always take 2 days rest after that final session. It's a 3-week program. My advice would be to run it for 3 weeks, deload, and then cycle it a further 2 times, and then test your new PRs. I'd say you need a good 9 weeks of training to really, as an intermediate lifter, to actually make some strength adaptations on your main lifts, get some gains, make some gains. I think 3 weeks, unless you're a newbie, you're a new lifter, you're a beginner, a novice, that's not long enough to really make a strength adaptation on your main lifts. Okay, so you do a heavy, a volume, and an explosive session for each exercise throughout the 3-week period. So let's take, for example, the deadlift straight away. Week 1, we're going to focus that on doing a heavy deadlift session. Week 2, we're going to do an explosive session, and then week 3, we're going to do a volume session. Okay. For the bench, in week 1, we start with the volume session, or they call it a rep session, and then we do heavy week 2, and then we do explosive week 3. And then for the squat, we start with explosive, volume, and heavy. But we don't do just 1 week all heavy, 1 week all explosive, 1 week all volume for each of the main 3 lifts. That's not how it works. You do one effort level for each exercise once a week. That way you don't overtrain. That makes sense. That's logical, and that's a good logical concept there. So when you're doing a heavy session, you're doing 2 sets of 5 reps. For explosive dynamic work, you're doing 8 sets of 3. And for the volume session, or it's referred to in the program as rep sessions, you do 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Now, for each exercise, you have two secondary exercises. These are also referred to as variation exercises, accessory exercises. They're basically variations on the main lift. And this just adds more volume to the program. So you got your block pulls for the deadlift, 2-inch deficits for the deadlift. For the bench, you got the close grips, the bench with the pause 1 inch off the chest, and then you got the front or Olympic squats for the squats, and then a pause squat in the hole, which could be anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds. And those are your variations, your secondary exercises that you'll be doing for each of those sessions. So when you do a deadlift session, you're going to do block pulls and deficits. So I hope that makes sense. Now, for that secondary, the effort level that you're going to do, the amount of intensity and volume for that secondary exercise is determined on whether you're doing a heavy session, explosive, or volume. And when you're doing a heavy session for your main lift, your competition lift, you will do high intensity, so quite heavy weight, maybe 80% plus of your 1 rep max, but you're going to be doing low volume, so not a lot of volume. And then when you're doing an explosive session, you're going to do low intensity, so lighter weight, and you do about a medium amount of volume, not as low as when you're doing heavy, not as much as when you're doing volume. And then for the volume sessions, you're going to choose sub-maximal weight, so not as light as when you're focusing on explosive sessions, but not as heavy as when you're doing a heavy session. And you're going to do high volume, so quite a lot of volume. So let's go to the program and actually check it out now. So week 1, we're going to start with heavy deadlifts. You can see here we're doing 2 sets of 5. That is what you do when you do a heavy session, and you're doing it for 80%. Right here up in the formula bar, the 0.8, that implies 80% for people who don't know that in Excel. We're doing block pulls for low volume, 2 sets of 2 at 85% of our 1 rep max. We're doing deficit deadlifts for 2 sets of 4 to 6 at 75%, which is quite heavy considering this is done on a deficit, not off the floor. So then you're going to choose anywhere from 2 to 4 assistance exercises. Now when you're doing your deadlift session, you want these to be pull based exercises. What you decide to do is entirely up to you. These are recommendations that I have made and something that I would do if I ran this program. Got your lat pull downs, your shrugs, your back extensions, and your pull-ups. Okay, now we go on to day 2. This is the rep bench session, or I like to refer to it as the volume session for the bench. We're doing the competition bench press, so apply the grip width that you would do for your competition. You're doing 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, so that's quite a lot of volume, and you're doing that at 70% of your 1 rep max. You're then going to do quite a bit of volume for the close grip bench press, 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps at 75% of your 1 rep max. And then you can do 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, which is a lot of volume, for the bench with a pause 1 inch off the chest at 65% of your 1 rep max. And then you're going to do 3 pressing based exercises, or you could do maybe 2 pressing based exercises and 1 core training exercise. I love the ab rollers. I always include them in my program. Now I've chosen to do, I choose to do about 4 assistance exercises for my deadlift session, but you could do maybe 2 to 3, but I always do no more than 3. I would advise that you do no more than 3 for the volume bench session, because you're doing a lot more volume. So when you do a volume session, especially for the bench, I tend to reduce the number of exercises I do for assistance work, because that's not really the focus of that session. That's my advice. So maybe when you're doing a heavy session, you can do more assistance work. When you're doing a volume session, you want to reduce that to maybe maximum really of about 3 exercises, especially if you're doing the bench press. So that's just an idea there. However, you can see that I haven't applied that theory for when I do the heavy deadlifts. You can see I'm doing 4 exercises there. So if I was, mainly because when I do a deadlift session, I do like to do quite a bit of assistance work. Maybe that's just me, but you can always just take one of those out and just do 2 to 3 exercises for that when you're doing a rep session, a volume session. So that's an idea there. You can always edit that out. I'll write that in the notes on the Enter 1 Rep Max page. I'll type that in here so that if you don't remember that, it's written here in the notes. So anyway, let's go back to it. So we're going to do close grip bench press for 2 sets of 6 to 8. At 75%, we're going to do 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12. At 65%, that seems about right. That seems manageable and doable. I would definitely take a bit more rest on the close grip bench press between those 2 sets. Just make sure that you have enough rest, because that actually is quite high intensity for a close grip bench press for 6 to 8 reps. Realistically, I could see people doing maybe 6 to 7, but 8 would be a bit of a push. Just my thinking there. And then the final session is the explosive squats, where you do 8 sets of 3 at 70%. And then you're going to do 2 sets of 5 for the front squats or Olympic squats at 70%. And then you're going to do 2 sets of 8, pausing in the hole for maybe 2 to 3 seconds at 60% of your 1 rep max for the squat. And then you're going to do your assistance work. Now again, I advise that you do a minimum really of 2 assistance exercises, a maximum of 4, but please don't feel obligated that you must do 4. You don't have to, especially on this squat session. I mean, squat based sessions where you're really focusing on the legs, it's actually quite draining. It's quite difficult to do 1 core exercise and then 2 accessory exercises, secondary stuff, and then do a total of 4 assistance exercises. That's quite a big ask, especially if you're doing heavy weight. So again, you can adjust that based on what works for you. That's not written in stone. So week 2, you're doing explosive deadlifts, 8 sets of 3 at 65%, block pulls, 2 sets of 5 at 70%, deficit deadlifts at 2 inches, 2 to 3 sets of 8 reps at 60%. So because we are doing an explosive session, we go back to our notes. When we do an explosive session, we do lower intensity, we do a sort of medium amount of volume, not too much, not too little. And then we got our assistance exercises. And we do a heavy bench session this time in week 2, day 2. 2 sets of 5, that's what you do when you do a heavy session at 80% of your 1 rep max. and then you do 2 sets of 1 to 3 reps at 85% with a close grip bench press. I would highly advise that you have a spotter when you're doing this, or maybe just putting some safety rails out, something like that, because that's a big ask. 85% with an actual close grip. That's definitely gonna take a lot of effort. 1 rep is okay, 2 reps is great, 3 reps would be fantastic, especially if you are doing a proper close grip bench press. Next one is the pause with the bench with a pause 1 inch off the chest. You're doing 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps. So we've reduced the volume from the previous week because we're doing a heavy session and we're doing 70% of our 1 rep max. And we're doing three assistance exercises, but if you would like, you can always do a 4th one if you feel like you can do a bit more on that heavy session because you haven't done too much volume compared to your rep session and your explosive session. So that's an idea there, something that you can incorporate. But again, don't get too hung up on these assistance exercises. It's not the main core goal of this program. It's not a bodybuilding program. So day 3 is the rep squats. So we're doing volume here. The goal is volume. So we've got 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps at 70% for our competition stance squat. We've got the front squats or Olympics. We're doing 2 sets of 6 to 8 and 75%. And we're doing our pause squats in the hole for 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps at 65% of our 1 rep max. And then we got our assistance leg exercises, but really for my advice with this, especially on a volume-based rep session, would be to really just do 2 assistance exercises and choose ones that isolate areas that you feel are weak. So it could be your glutes, it could be your hamstrings, it could be your calf muscles. Choose one that works for you, that really works on a weak area. So we're going to week 3 now. We're doing our rep deadlift session, our volume deadlift session. Competition stance from the floor, 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Doing that at 70%. So that's a big ask, 8 to 12 reps with the deadlift, but it's doable. And then we do block pulls for 2 sets of 6 to 8 at 75%. And then we do a 2-inch deficit deadlift at 65% for 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. So there's quite a lot of volume there. So when you come to these assistance exercises, really don't get too hung up on that. This maybe 1 or 2 exercises would be enough, but I put 4 in there because you never know. You get some people out there who have ridiculous amount of strength. They're 16 years of age, they haven't got a worry in the world, they don't have to work a day in their life, so they might have time and the energy to do that, but there are some people who will struggle with that. But I've included 4 in there. Hey, just put them in there, but you can change that. Day 2 is an explosive bench session. We're doing 8 sets of 3 at 80%. We're going to do close grip bench press, 2 sets of 5, 70%. And we're doing the bench with a pause 1 inch off the chest. We're doing 60% for 2 to 3 sets of 8 reps. And then we're going to do our assistance exercises. And then we finish the program with heavy squats, competition stance, 2 sets of 5, 80%. And we do front squats for heavy weight, 2 sets of 1 to 3 reps at 85% of our 1 rep max for that exercise. Do some heavy pause work as well, 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps at 70%. I mean, especially if you're doing a 3-second pause in the hole at 70% for 4 to 6 reps, that's a big ask. That's going to be challenging. I always like to do, I'll throw this in there, when I do my accessory secondary exercises, so these ones right here, I tend not to use my belt, my weightlifting shoes, my wrist wraps, my knee wraps. I prefer to just do them completely raw, nothing at all, no gear whatsoever. That's how I like to do that. So take that into consideration. That's what a lot of advanced and elite lifters do. They try not to rely on this gear when they're doing these accessory variation exercises. So that's something to bear in mind. And then then you got your assistance work. Again, just go with what works for you. If you feel absolutely exhausted after the first 3 exercises, you've got only enough energy really to do 1 or 2, maximum 2 assistance exercises, then that's fine. So there we go, that's the program. I think it's a really good program. I prefer it actually to the other one, the Brandon Lilly Cube method. So hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, comment below. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all things strength, power and weightlifting related on my channel. And you can download this directly from my website. Follow the link in the description below. I do have a section for donations. If you enjoy it and you like this spreadsheet, you had success with this, you enjoyed the tutorial walkthrough, any donations, big or small, are gravely appreciated because I do this all out of my own pocket. So thank you if you do donate, I really appreciate that. So good luck with the program, have a great day, thanks for watching.